Hello, so today I want to talk about 3 strength training mental tips. And one of the things to really think about is strengthening your mind is very similar to strengthening your body. It definitely comes down to repetition, sometimes isolation, and sometimes overload. You really especially have to do the repetition. You have to practice and practice and practice and practice and practice some more. It requires a lot of practice, and this is something that I think sometimes gets missed, where you don't understand how much practice it really takes. And so you have to think about how much time you spend strengthening your body, and then look at how much time do you spend strengthening your mind. And for most athletes, there is a pretty big gap between the amount of time that's being spent. And so you really have to look at developing and creating more time to strengthen the mind, because the mind is what allows all of that training you're doing physically to be able to come through in a moment, to be able to be displayed, especially under high demand or pressure moments. So let's look at some of these things that you can do to help strengthen your mind. Number 1 is to train in adverse conditions. So often your competition is not going to go ideally. I would say most of the time it's not going to go ideally. There's going to be some type of adversity. However, for most athletes, they train in ideal conditions. So there's a little bit of a gap here where you go into your competition and there's adversity, but your training has been really in ideal situations where there is no adversity. And so in order to train and really prepare yourself for those adverse moments in competition and in games, you need to train that way. It could be, if you're a basketball player and you are practicing your free throws, have somebody create some form of distraction, whether that's visual or auditory, right? Screaming, foghorn, waving their hands, whatever it might be, is to really create some distraction to help you get used to shooting free throws under distraction, or maybe under a time clock, to really help you with this idea of, kind of time pressure, having to get that ball off your hand, right? Really trying to make it, even though that's not something that obviously happens in a game, it's just helping you to get used to that kind of adversity, that pressure, a little bit of a difference compared to just sitting there with no distractions, no pressure, and just shoot the ball over and over and over and over again, right? You need to create that adversity. Or maybe in your training, whatever sport you might play, right? Run or go for a bike ride against the wind, right? Really train in some of that adversity rather than biking or running on a treadmill or biking on a stationary bike indoors. Number 2 is learn to drop the story. So one of the most important and hardest attentional skills for you to develop is learning to drop the story. To drop the story, you have to recognize first that you do have a story, and we all have a lot of stories. That's generally how we kind of operate on a day-to-day basis. You make a mistake and you start to create a story around it, around how it may affect your playing time, what your coach is thinking, what your teammates are thinking, or you're thinking about, how you should have done it better in the past, right? There's a lot of stories that get created around one particular situation, and we have to learn to drop the story to really see the situation and the reality of what is existing as it actually is, not how we are thinking or perceiving it is. And this really helps us to strengthen our mind, because now we can see what is going on, helps us to deal with situations a lot better, and helps us to really be able to perform. And that attentional skill, as I said, is one of the hardest things to be able to do, and that's something that you can do through mindfulness meditation, to learn to train your mind to be able to do that. But this is definitely very important so that you can stay present and move on faster from mistakes, and really be able to explore the upper limits of your potential. Mental strength training tip number 3 is recovery. And your recovery is not just for your physical body, your mind also needs recovery. In order to be able to go back and train in adverse conditions, to be able to train your attention, to have the energy and mental energy to have the attentional capacity to be able to deal with things as they come your way in any type of situation. And so recovery can be, getting some time away from your screen, social media, to taking a day or 2 off away from your sport, just to kind of really go focus on some other things, take your mind off of, that aspect of your life. Learning to really be able to let go of a performance, to not really think about a performance past your purposeful self-reflection time, so that no more than probably within an hour after your performance, you've kind of left it, you're done, and you're moving on with your life. These are all components that really help you with your mental recovery, because especially thinking or learning to let go of your past performance really helps you to not drain your mental energy. So there you have it. There are 3 strategies to help you with your mental strength training.